Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Risk with Dr. Naveen Agarwal. Each week, we talk about a topic related to risk management of medical devices in a very casual and informal way. This is not a webinar or lecture. Rather, our goal is to talk about key topics and challenges in a very informal way and share best practices. I'm your host, Naveen Agarwal, and I'm the principal and founder at Achieve, where my personal mission is to help you achieve success in risk management. My guest in this episode is Ronald Baumans. He is a PRRC trainer and a coach and a strategic consultant for medical device companies. We are talking about quality of life benefit and how medical device risk practitioners should consider this quality of life benefit in their benefit risk evaluations. We also discuss some of the key highlights from the Team PRRC meeting, where Ronald ran a workshop on the role of PRRC for medical device manufacturers. We had this conversation as part of our weekly LinkedIn live audio series in front of a live audience. You're about to hear a recording of our conversation. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. So with that, I welcome all of you. And particularly, Ronald, thank you for joining me today. I so appreciate your time.
Yes, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, and I like your work, which you do with risk management. So it's a great opportunity here to share some of my thoughts with your network.
Thank you, Ronald. Could you please just start by introducing yourself briefly to our audience?
Yes, I started working with medical devices in 1987, a Dutch company making medical devices, and I worked in product development there. And since then, I've seen almost all aspects of medical devices. I worked in distribution, so I had my own company importing and selling devices, which was quite interesting. Mm-hmm. But that went bust. Good experience, but it happens. And then I started working in research, quality of life research related to the use of medical devices. Mm-hmm. So can you see differences in quality of life? Can you make it measurable, quantifiable? Mm-hmm. That was very interesting. I did some research into standards, so develop a test for a standard. If you ever have the opportunity and you want to see a completely different perspective on medical devices, and see all the bad things that companies can think of, and some good things as well, go there. It's really interesting. Then I started working for the Dutch Competent Authority, the Dutch healthcare inspectorate, as a senior inspector, and I was responsible for the southern half of the Netherlands together with my team. And I did that for 11 years, and then I joined Emergo, which is a consulting organization, a global consulting organization. Worked there for 9 years, and since June of last year, I have my own consulting company, Baumans Regulatory Consulting, and I specialize in strategic consulting. So
very nice.
Answer the difficult questions.
Very nice. Well, you have seen so much in the field. You have seen so much in application. So I'm sure you have very, very interesting insights. But Ronald, before we go into the quality of life discussion, I know that you just returned from a PRRC summit and you actually did a workshop there. So I'm very curious to hear just a few sort of key takeaways, key highlights that you can share with us.
Yeah. Well, it was the second Team PRC summit with almost twice the number of participants as last year. So that's really exciting growth there. So we had many speakers speak about some practical aspects of the PRC. Mm-hmm. And so, for example, we learned about from notified bodies, how do they inspect or audit the role of the PRC? Mm-hmm. So if you're there as a PRC, they want to see evidence that you have done a training. So your training, your university degree certificate thing should be there. And just stating in your CV, I've worked for at least 4 years or 1 year that is not enough. You need to have more evidence there.
Right.
And so that's very interesting. That was a very interesting thing to see. We also talked about how liable is a PRC and what's the risk for the PRC. And what we saw from, so that's a different type of risk. It's not medical devices risk. It's just the risk of doing your job, maybe not perfect. But what we learned there from lawyers, but also from competent authorities, is that the risk is limited, but you must demonstrate that you do your job properly.
Got you.
And that also means that if you intentionally look the other way and there's clear evidence, someone communicates to you, hey, listen, dear PRC, we have a problem here, and you ignore it, that's then the requirements, the regulations in Italy, for example, can put a PRC in jail.
Got you.
And other member states have fines, but that's for PRCs who are intentionally making errors. Just making a mistake, just overlooking something. You cannot see everything. Even notified bodies sample things, so you cannot do as a PRC what a notified body does. Or even better, even improve on the notified body. And that was interesting to see, and sort of relief in the room with all these PRCs. Okay, I don't have to be gold or even better than that. You just have to just do your job as a PRC.
So competence.
And there was one thing. But one thing I want to add, there was someone who was working as a PRC and then got promoted to head of quality regulatory affairs in a large organization. And she stayed on as a PRC. And that, as she demonstrated, was a mistake.
It's a dedicated role.
Yes, it's a dedicated role. And where as a PRC, she could walk into a room and pick up some interesting information. As part of the management team, when she walked into the room, all conversation stopped.
So
that's not how it works.
Well, but I think this is really interesting for our audience to be aware of, because there is really a new development here, new way of doing business in the light of MDR. So I think what you're sharing makes sense. And folks, if you have questions about the PRRC role, there's no better person than Ronald to ask. So please feel free to connect. I'm going to sign you up. But you have so much insight to share on this topic. And I'm really appreciating that you are giving us some real world kind of tips based on your most recent experience.
Yes, okay. Well, thank you. But you just reach out. I mean, especially PRCs, you can be in a lone position. Just reach out. If it's a simple question, I just help you immediately. Because I know it can be a difficult position.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ronald. So let's jump into quality of life. So first of all, my first question was, can quality of life benefit can be considered as a clinical benefit? And how do we actually start to even think about it?
Yes, quality of life can be seen as a clinical benefit. If you look at the health technology assessment regulation that's coming up now, that is about quality of life. And for example, if you are suffering a chronic disease and you have a device you're using a device which is not good, then your quality of life gets so bad that you may no longer want to live. And I've seen it happen. So quality of life is really something important, something that you have to pay attention to, and it can be put into a clinical context.
That's awesome. So can you share an example of a quality of life benefit that kind of you have come across or you have worked with in a medical device?
Yes, I can do that. It was a company, they made an implant. It's a small implant used to sort of assist the meniscus. So in certain conditions, make the meniscus degenerate, and that can be very painful. And by using this little implant, the meniscus is assisted. So it's not replacing anything. You can take it out and then you go back to where you were. It is inserted in a very small procedure. So instead of having to do full total knee replacement, you have a little cut. It's done under local anesthesia, and it's because of the local anesthesia that patients are not capable of walking out of the hospital, but otherwise they would be able to do that. Mm-hmm. It's that minimal invasive. And after that, and so they tested it, it worked perfectly, but they made a little mistake, the manufacturer. Mm. They did not realize that patients, after they started using that, got this implant, they went back to their normal life they had before they got this condition. And so instead of stabilizing the patient was gaining a lot of extra quality of life. So people went back to went back to the army where they came from, or went skiing again, or mountaineering, or what have you. And that started wearing out these implants. So within 2 years, quite a lot of these implants had to be replaced. Now, if you have orthopedic implants and revisions and less than 2 years, if these three things in one line, in one sentence, all alarm bells go off at competent authorities. Mm-hmm. So they had big problems there. So they reached out to me, what can we do? And so we started working on showing the difference in quality of life and improvement of quality of life, and justified this early replacement, which is done again under local anesthesia. And you're not, how should I say, reducing the quality of the knee by doing it. Like, there's a number of times you can do a total knee replacement, but this you can keep doing. And patients said, well, no, please, because they knew that within 10 days, they would be back to where they were after this replacing this implant. So patients were actively promoting that they could keep using this device. Mm-hmm. And so with that in mind, we created in the clinical evaluation report a separate section about quality of life and how that justified this risk of early revision. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the device is now on the European market. It is certified by TÜV of all places, and competent authorities know that this early revision thing is there, and know that they cannot ignore it. So it's not a problem. So here you have a risk, the risk of failure of an implant due to too high load, which is made acceptable by the quality of life aspect.
Okay, I see what you mean. Now, of course, the ideal situation would be that, the device doesn't fail, even though the quality of life has improved and the activity level has gone back to what it was originally. I think that will be the kind of ideal situation. But what I'm hearing you say is that even though there's a risk of revision surgery, that risk is offset by the higher improvement in quality of life. That's what I'm hearing you say. So it's a benefit-risk kind of evaluation.
Yes.
Now, that's fascinating to me because I never looked at it this way. In fact, the other aspect of this is you said minimally invasive surgical procedure. It could apply. It may not apply to other procedures which might be more sort of intensive, more sort of involved, right? Because then the risk is not as low as it would be in this case, correct?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it would change. The equation would be different. But maybe even then, right?
Yeah. I think what I'm hearing you say is that paying attention to the quality of life benefit in addition to other clinical benefits can help us strengthen our case of the benefit risk sort of analysis that we have done.
Yes. You can have a device with a technical problem or some kind of a risk and making it acceptable. I have another example. Do you have time for that?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, let's do a quick example, and then we can invite conversation on this.
Yes, it's a device that's used invasively in the body orifice, and you cannot see on the outside of if a patient is using it.
Mm-hmm.
That device has a magnet, a powerful magnet inside it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to go into an MRI scanner with that magnet in your body.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But you cannot see it on the outside. If a patient is brought in unconscious in a hospital, they may end up an MRI scanner. Now, if a patient arrives unconscious, there is a protocol that the patient should be scanned by a ferromagnetic a detector.
Uh-huh.
It's not always done. So here we have the problem that a use error on another device by another user is causing a deadly risk, because it is deadly.
Yeah.
A deadly risk to a patient using another device. If you look at what is the risk, the chance of the patient having that, this particular, it's a very small chance. The point is that because of you cannot see the patient from the see that the patient is a patient from the outside, mm-hmm. and patients can just go back to normal life, and that is very important in the quality of life. So we are pushing this now because it is about it has more with this device. Instead of being dependent of seeing a physician on a daily basis, mm-hmm. They can now live for several weeks without seeing a physician, and then the device has to be replaced. It's a short-term use device, but it means they can go on vacation, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. And it's for people at relatively young ages. So it has everything to do with quality of life.
Yeah, fascinating. Because the key point here, I think what I'm hearing also is that if we are offering quality of life benefit by something like this, we should also be aware of some additional risks that might be involved. In this case, you mentioned the use error risk. In the prior case, there might be like too many surgeries or too much damage. Mm-hmm. So it's a new way of thinking about benefit risk, is it not? If we are going after quality of life as one of the benefits that we want to demonstrate.
Yeah. And I think you need to do it because healthcare is about quality of life. I mean, that's right?
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Why not?
Oh, this is fascinating. I so appreciate this kind of new conversation, guys. Floor is open. So, you just find a way to alert me. I think you can raise your hand virtually. Bijan, you are requesting to speak, so I'm going to bring you up. And guys, you don't have to wait. Just let me know you're interested, and I can bring more than one person at a time on our virtual stage. So with that, Bijan, please share what you have in mind.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead, please.
Okay, good. Yes. Hi, Ronald. A very interesting topic. About quality of life is kind of a subjective thing. I'm curious on the meniscus device that you mentioned. When you did your clinical trials, how did you measure your benefit? What was your primary endpoint? Did you use a scale? How did you do that?
Well, we used actually a very simple strategy. We asked patients before and after. So we knew about these patients, what was important in their lives. So we asked them before the intervention and several weeks after the intervention about things that they were doing. So can you walk stairs if it's important for them to walk stairs? Can you do shopping independently? Can you do this? Can you do that? And they had marked that on a scale of 1 to 10. Mm-hmm. And then you have a quantification of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's very hard data.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
We needed to do that on quite a short term. So we had devices were being implanted, not in Europe, but somewhere else. And so we used this strategy before and a few weeks after the implantation, these questions. So we had, in about 4 months' time, we had sufficient data to show, yep, there is a big difference in quality of life.
And in some ways, this reminds me of the pain scale, because everyone is so different. Their perception of pain is so different. You always ask them, on a scale of 1 to 5 or 1 to 10, how you are feeling. So what I'm hearing in this is that, yes, it's a subjective sort of metric, but we could measure it. And there are other best practices that we can learn from to really quantify this in a reliable way. So that's very fascinating. Guys, we're going to continue having this conversation. Bijan, please hang in there. If we have time, we were going to talk more about this. But floor is open, guys. So please feel free to join us. Share your thoughts, any questions or comments you have on what you have heard so far, or if you have come across this quality of life aspect of your benefit risk evaluation, please share that with us. So Ronald, I'm going to pursue this a little bit more with you because there is one point that is still not very clear in my mind, is that by default, if we are solving sort of a medical condition or medical problem through a therapeutic device, we are definitely providing the benefit. And usually we are used to measuring them in a clinical way. And we expect that their quality of life should improve. So is there something different about the approach that you're talking about? Is something more than what a traditional medical device would be expected to deliver anyway?
I'm not sure if I understand the question. Can you rephrase it?
For example, let's say, so I have a lot of experience in the ophthalmology or eye care area. So let's say my vision is not very good and I can no longer drive at night, right? I get glares, and maybe I have this great surgical procedure or a device or something that can go inside my eye, and it can help me do that now. So basically, it helped me overcome a limitation I was beginning to face. That was the purpose of the device to begin with. And it offered me, it was able to give me the quality of life that I had before. What I'm asking is that, is there anything additional, anything extra that we are thinking about from a quality of life point of view that we should quantify? Like something that I was never able to do before, now I'm able to do it. Rather than something I was able to do before and now I cannot do it, and I'm helping solve that problem.
Well, that's not something I tend to measure. So if I'm talking about quality of life, the typical way to do that, the typical strategy to do that, and that's what when I was doing this clinical quality of life research, we developed this strategy. Mm-hmm. You have interviews with people and ask them what's important. What is important in your life? What makes your life worthwhile? Mm-hmm. And then you start asking questions about that and try to quantify that in scales. And then you can start using it and apply interventions to that group. So, and then you can see if one intervention is scoring better in terms of quality of life than the other. For example, patients who are incontinent, you can use different types of incontinent material, and then you can see if one incontinent material provides better quality of life than the other.
I got you. So you could have like a gradient in the quality of life measurement, and your performance can be kind of evaluated based on that. Roger, I see you have joined us, so please unmute your mic and share what you have in mind.
I just want to jump in on the conversation. I agree. This is an interesting way to think about this, something I've not done. And I can see, even though I'm not greatly versed in this, at the beginning of a development project, getting with clinical engineering to maybe even start gathering some of this quality of life at the beginning of what you're researching your device for. It helped people think about this. So I'm more from the hardcore engineering, and my risk benefit is really about, my mental focus has always been on the technical aspect. Mm-hmm. But yeah, this is forevermore I will be thinking risk, benefit, parentheses, quality of life, close parentheses. So, yeah, very good topic.
I like it, Roger. That's a good way of thinking about it. Go ahead, Ronald. You have something to say.
I have a suggestion. In my first job, we did this. So we were starting to develop a completely new device for people with a stoma, ostomy product, and a completely new way of thinking about it. So what we did is we interviewed some patients. We had some patients representing specific types of people with a stoma, and so we interviewed them. We had a summary of the interview, printed, and pictures. 1987, digital things were not there, so there was quite a logistic issue, a challenge as well. But we had those pictures in the room where we were doing this project, and every time we had a question, we looked at these pictures. What would they say about what we're now going to propose? Because these people were really alive for us. Mm-hmm. And when we got a message that one of them died during our project, so we went to the funeral because they were so real for us.
Wow. I think this is bringing more of a personal connection and allowing us to connect more directly with the patients. So I love this. I think this is a great idea for us to bring in that perspective, the patient perspective, and why, we always say that, hey, we are doing it for the patients, but if we don't see it, if we don't talk to them, if we don't hear their stories, it's not real. And we are in our offices, we are in our workshops or labs doing work, and it becomes unreal. Guys, we still have a couple of minutes left, so I invite you to please join us and share your thoughts. We still have some time left, and we will continue to talk about it for a couple of minutes. Ronald, any other? Okay, Ian, you are requesting to join. Go ahead, and Nathan, I'll also bring you up. Hopefully you guys can join us. Okay, Ian, go ahead, please. What you have in mind, share.
Hi, Ian. You're still muted.
Yes, you might want to unmute yourself first. Yes.
I'm unmuted now.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Ronald. It's been quite a thought-provoking discussion. And something that came to my mind was, it's slightly off topic, but connected in a way, was how the Kingdom of Bhutan looks at society as a whole. And it has an approach that's based on that happiness of the society rather than anything that's specifically to do with things like gross national product. So its metrics are very different to metrics that other countries use. And I think this quality of life thing is a very important way that manufacturers should think about it. And there is a precedent for this in the way that some countries do look at healthcare and society as a whole.
Nice. Yeah. Interesting. I like it. Thank you for sharing that, Ian. Let's see. Anybody else? Nathan, you are trying to come up here, but I'm having difficulty bringing you on stage right now. Please give it a try in a little bit. Okay, guys, I think we are going to run short of time. So I'm going to give Ronald just a couple of minutes to collect his thoughts and, share with us a few key takeaways. But in the meantime, as a very quick reminder, we meet every Friday at 11 Eastern. So those of you who are new, you can just join us at 11 o'clock. Mark it on your calendars. And if you miss it, the recordings of these conversations are available on the Let's Talk Risk newsletter. In fact, now I have created a separate space where you can find all the recordings in one place. The link to join the Substack newsletter is in this event as a first link. And finally, I want to give a call out once again to ask you to raise your hand and join me as a guest speaker. I know all of you have unique insights to share. There's no preparation required. There is no work, just a willingness to come up and join us in a conversation is what is needed. So please reach out to me if you're interested. We have a very flexible calendar, and we welcome anybody and everybody who is willing to join us. With that, Ronald, I want to give you the floor for a couple of minutes to share any key takeaways that we can take from this conversation today.
Well, I think I don't want to go as far as and what Ian was saying, that we should start thinking as Bhutan, but maybe every now and then consider it. and take and try to really understand who are your patients, especially if you have a quite innovative device. You probably have a lot of challenges in developing it and getting it to the market. And if you know that someone is waiting for it, it helps a lot. So yeah, if you know that you're going to change people's lives, yeah, that's then 60-hour working weeks is nothing, right? Yeah. What I also see from the responses here, quality of life. It is a bit, I should say, overlooked. I think we can change that a bit and just start addressing it and start using it as a factor in how to develop your products and how to demonstrate compliance.
That's awesome, Nathan. I know you have joined. Go ahead.
And one last thing, if you want to do a PRC training, you never know.
Yes.
There's this workshop from RAPS in February, 2 days in Rotterdam, 2 days of Anne, Jury, and me as teachers. It's going to be great. Or join one of my online training, which is also good. It's just 2 hours, two times 2 hours, but it is covering the same subjects as the 2 days training.
Ronald, if you can send me the link to those trainings, I will add them to this event so people can find it.
Okay.
Now, I know, Nathan, you are now able to join us, and I always say, even if you raise your hand at the last moment, I will never say no, so I'm going to invite you to unmute your mic and briefly share what you have in mind.
Hi, everyone, and sorry about that. My question, Ronald, is, I suppose, when dealing with quality of life as a benefit, have you had any issues with notified bodies, competent authorities, while defending your benefit risk analysis?
No. They understand what's going on, and of course you need to demonstrate it. You need to quantify it. You must have clear evidence. But just saying, "Oh, it's better quality of life," fine.
Yeah.
I'm actually a bit surprised about that. You were surprised.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone looks for clinical benefits.
It's a natural thing for me. I've been involved in quality of life so much that can you do without?
Well, I think, Ronald, certainly you have, in a way, both challenged us and inspired us to think about quality of life upfront, early on. Think about the patient. So I really appreciate that. I hope, guys, you have enjoyed this conversation. I know we have run out of time. Recording will be available soon. With that, I want to thank all of you once again for being part of this community. It is because of you that we have such awesome conversations. Stay in touch, stay connected, give me feedback, write to me anytime, get involved. Thank you, everyone. I will see you guys again next week. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.